through this transition in your life where you were first Alex. That's how I met you, and we'll talk about that. And then you went into this other phase that was Fiesta. It was like a completely different person, right? Yeah. And then now you're back to Alex, but it's more like Professor Alex, right?
Well, not professor. I am a teacher, but
you could say that though. You could be like, I'm Professor Alex. People would buy that.
I mean, I guess
Professor Alex.
I don't like it. Just like I never tell my students to call me Mr. or Professor or anything like that.
They just call you Alex?
It's just Alex.
That's pretty cool. It's kind of ironic that you were such a pain in high school to your poor teachers, and now you're teaching people.
It is ironic.
Is there some karma involved in there? Do you ever get people like...
Oh, yeah. I've had students that have said things I've said to teachers, and I have to kind of sit there and take it, and it usually makes me laugh.
You have to be authoritative. You have to be like, don't say that. You can't do that. But in the back of your mind, you're almost like, I used to do this.
You can. It depends on your teaching style, of course. Me personally, I'm not a very authoritative like instructor. Mm-hmm. I tend to be a little more on the lax side when it comes to behavior. Where I am kind of strict is with grading and all that. So, but whatever. I let it slide because at the end of the day, I used to be like that too. So I have a different kind of understanding than maybe a teacher who was a really good student. Yeah. So I actually like my pain in the ass students.
I mean, when we were in high school together, you were never like you were never like super misbehaved. You were
I was relatively like I was at really like I had my periods where I was misbehaved. I got suspended twice. But most of the time I was all right. I was just a talkative.
I had a class with you one time. It was the computer class. Do you remember that?
I do remember that. And
you would never, when the teacher was talking everything, you were behaving. And the only thing that you would do, which was awesome, was that you would play. Was it Warcraft in class?
Yeah, Warcraft and RuneScape. We used to play it in class nonstop.
We were supposed to be learning. I don't even know what class that was. I just remember it was a computer class. We were learning.
I don't remember the lady.
It was with the cheerleader teacher.
Was it?
Yeah. She was skinny, and she was like the lady who would take care of the cheerleaders. I remember that the other day.
Yeah, she's still there.
You used to play Warcraft and RuneScape, like you said, and you got me into those two games because of that.
Yeah.
I mean, RuneScape, I used to play in 5th grade. I was playing.
Yeah, that one's been around now since like 1999 or something like that.
That game, it's funny because you remember Geo?
Yeah.
Geo, I have this funny story with him where I got a level, it was like a level 65 mage on RuneScape, and he was leveling up, he was super strong, and Geo found out that I had that account, and he tells me one day, he's like, yo, I'll buy that account off of you. This was like in 6th grade. He bought it, and then I sold it for a $20 GameStop gift card, which at the time, it was awesome. I was like, man, this is great. But then like a year later, I was like, man, I worked so hard. That was like 2 or 3 years of my life that I just sold for $20.
Yeah. Well, you're in high school or middle school actually, so your brain is still developing.
Yeah. And then so after high school you became Fiesta. Now, do you remember, was there a day, was there a week, was there a month where was that the real you? Was this like a facade? Was it a mix? Like,
I think the concept of the real you is constantly changing throughout your life.
100%.
Yeah. And I think that like almost everybody I know at the time, it was kind of like a struggle that you have with yourself where you're right out of high school, you're about to start your adult life allegedly, and you're kind of struggling to define exactly who you are, who you want to be, what you want to do. And I did that by getting trashed and developing an alter ego that I could get trashed under. And I did that for a while, and it was a lot of fun.
It was, and everybody knew you, which was the funny part. I went to a few house parties with you, and people that you had never seen apparently would come up to you and they would say, "Hey, Fiesta!" And this was before like social media. I mean, we had Facebook and things, but
we did, but it was just kind of starting to kick off. Facebook was like, I would put pictures on there, and I knew how to use it. But yeah, it was just kind of starting to kick off, and I remember I met a lot of really interesting people in that time of my life. And I tried a lot of new things, and I drank a lot, and we partied a lot. And although I want to say that wasn't really an authentic version of me, it was still a part of me. Because it was a part of me that wanted to explore. And like when I was young, I was not popular. Mm-hmm. And in high school, I mean, you remember me, I was not popular. Yeah. I was scared of people. I was not overly social. I was talkative to my small little group, but I wasn't really like a social butterfly. And I was kind of that nerdy kid. I played Halo, and when Wikipedia came out, I would write the articles. Like, I was a nerdy kid.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and I liked dinosaurs, and I still played with toys into high school. So, yeah, I'll admit that now. I would have never at the time. And so this was kind of like my way of trying out what I thought everybody else was doing. And I did. And
So was it easy? Was it something that you had to work at, or were you just like, you know what, let me try and be more free? There's no more rules. We're out of high school now. I don't.
It was more something like that. It was more, you know what, I'm gonna release. I grew up in a kind of a strict household, like Catholic household. So in my head, this was my trying out something completely free and different and new. And I said, you know what? I'm going to drink a lot. I'm going to party a lot because these are things that everybody's doing and maybe I'm missing out on that. So I did it. And then it didn't really last that long, to be honest, because I did lose sight of who I really actually was. And then I started noticing this trend of friends that weren't really friends.
The good thing is, though, that you came around. Because then after that, you got really serious. You got into rock climbing. You got into the whole fitness thing. I remember you were telling me you were running like a couple miles a day.
At one point, I was trying to get to 10 miles a day. And that was 2 years ago when I quit smoking.
You quit smoking too. Yeah. So it's almost like your life did like a whole 180. I wouldn't say 360. I would say more like a 180 because when I met you, you know, I felt like you had a clear path, right? In a way. And then, you know, you after high school, we started partying and doing all that stupid stuff. And then after that, you started going to college and everything, and you majored in it was history, right?
Well, my associates was psychology and then history for my bachelor's.
I didn't know that. Why psychology?
I liked it. I liked the way the human mind. I liked studying the human mind and understanding why we make decisions. And ironically, a lot of what I do today is related to that. So
yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, I've taken a big interest in economics now in grad school and like in business school and whatnot. And I'm really glad I got that background in psych. You know, it's an associate is nothing. It's not really an in-depth, but it gave you kind of like an overview and.
Yeah, an associate's it's almost like a second level of high school in a way.
Basically,
you take the same. Sometimes you repeat some of the classes in a way, like you do math and you're only getting into what you want to major in a little bit. Like when I was studying architecture, I think I did psychology, nutrition, all these other classes. And it wasn't until the last like 2 semesters where I started taking architecture classes. And then once you go into graduate level, that's when it's all architecture, for example. And for you, it was all like what was that like?
For me, it was, you know, intro to psychology, personal effectiveness, like basically who were the people that developed psych and what are some of the major trends in psychology. And that's about it. And that's really the extent of my knowledge because I studied history and then later business. But it did help me kind of to get my bearings. It didn't really help me in history so much, but it is helping me now in business school. So I enjoy it. I'm glad I did it, definitely.
Now, why? So you picked psychology and then you went into history. You liked history from before, always, because I remember you had a pretty sweet collection of like guns and
I collected antique firearms and swords and whatnot,
right? And you would always tell me the history of everything, and you had books, like you had a shelf in your room. I don't know if you still have it in your room.
I've expanded it. It's actually really a lot bigger now.
Really? And it's like you had all these cool history books, and you would always tell me like, oh, this is from this era, and you know, this is a replica of this, and like, you know, it's funny because do you when you're in history, when you study history, do you also look at geology, like the history of Earth, or is it mostly just the like events in history that you're looking at?
It's actually very interesting that you would ask me that because one of the things that I do enjoy the most about history is treating it as part of the history of Earth itself. So like where a lot of historians or people that study history will kind of focus on like socioeconomic history, like or political history. I focus as like humans' history within the Earth's history. So for me, a historian is not just understanding what we have done as a society, as a species, but where like we fit into the grand scheme of things. Everything from the Big Bang to where we are now. And that's a relatively new way to look at history because it also incorporates a lot of science. It incorporates physics and geology. It incorporates geography and it incorporates chemistry and basically
now
everything.
In school, are they teaching you all this, or is this research that you're doing on the side?
This is I say it really openly and I tell my students, school is important because it can be the key to maybe inspiring you to learn a little more, but you don't need it to learn. 99% of what I've learned and I use in my career, including in business and as a teacher, is not from school. Getting a master's degree is just a piece of paper, in my opinion, and I'm getting the piece of paper, and it has given me a sort of like a general overview of the things I should know. But what I found in getting that is that all it's done is kind of spark interest now in all the other things I could be learning.
Yeah, that's so true. I've realized with my degree that what they taught me in school is probably 1 or 2% of what I actually use, in the real world, in the professional world.
Exactly.
Did that happen to you as well? Is that something you felt?
I mean, I'm not finished yet. I'm on my last 2 classes now. But yeah, I mean, you go to, in my case, an accounting class, and you realize, oh, wow, accounting's kind of intricate in your first class. And in your second accounting class, you're like, oh, fuck, accounting is really, really, really intricate. And then by your third accounting class, you realize that there's an entire profession dedicated to accounting. And there's an entire degree just for accounting. And you're just brushing up on it as a business major,
Yeah, that's so true.
So, and the same thing with maybe human resources. Same thing with economics. The same thing with statistics. So for me, my program's an MBA. We kind of go a little bit over everything. It didn't really teach me necessarily everything I needed to know, so much as it showed me all the things I need to learn. And that's for me what school is. It's kind of a guide to show you how little you know, so that you can go ahead and learn that shit when you finish.
Yeah, 100%. It's like, in a way, it's teaching you, all the possibilities or like basics of it.
Yeah, it's
and
a
then
skeleton.
you kind of pick and choose what you want to, get deeper and what you want to specialize in.
Exactly.
I asked you the whole thing about history because when I was doing my final semester, my thesis, as they call it, our professor told us, for your thesis, we want you to pick your own project. It's architecture, but you can do anything that relates to architecture.
Yeah.
And I didn't really know what I wanted to do. That's something that a lot of people struggled with. They didn't know what their topic was because the thesis is a year-long class. It's 2 semesters, right? And I started listening a lot to like podcasts and, certain things. And I started getting this idea of like geology and history in general. That's why I brought that up. But I started getting fascinated with what is geology. And I started, we started, not we, but me, I started looking into like the history of Earth and, the whole thing about the Ice Age and all this thing. And I feel like you're kind of interested in that because I remember you used to talk to me a lot about these things when we were younger. And I was always like, I didn't care. Until now, you know what I'm saying? And you used to always talk to me about like aliens and all this crazy stuff.
Yeah.
Is that something you still believe in? Like aliens in general? Or
I mean,
like...
aliens is... Somebody did the stats. I don't know. But statistically, it's likely that we're not the only living, the only life forms in the galaxy or in the universe.
I mean, it makes sense.
There's actually these
It's an infinite universe, as they say.
It is infinitely growing, yeah. So, you think... We even have species... of life here on Earth that can survive in space. So it's not like we don't know that life can survive in space. It's just a matter of we haven't found it. And really, when you look at how big it is, like understanding space is difficult for us. The reason is, number one, we only see in 3 dimensions. Number 2, it's so big that it's difficult to just explain it to someone. So we may be like a grain of rice, on this table here. And something in another galaxy might be like a grain of rice in China. And then, you talk about that distance and you think about it in those terms. A grain of rice on one side of the planet and a grain on the other.
It's unimaginable.
And then, and you say that's only the distance from here to maybe, the next planet, to Mars.
That's crazy, man.
But there's so much of space that's nothing. Not technically nothing. There's all kinds of matter and we can get all technical about it another time, but there's so much of it that seems to be nothing, or that's full of things that we can't see, and that's a bit that's hard for us to kind of wrap our heads around. So when you think about all that vastness and all that distance, that's where the statistics come in, and you say, well, yeah, statistically, there should be, or it's very likely that there is. Would we ever get to it? Would we ever see it? Probably not.
Not only that, but like the first civilization that we know of, like they invented writing cuneiform. I'm forgetting who they were.
The Phoenicians invented, I believe they were the ones who first came up with the 26 character alphabet, if I'm not mistaken. They were one of the first to put it together.
And what year was this, more or less?
Hazy memory, buddy.
It was like 3 or 4,000 maybe.
Yeah, you were talking about anywhere from 3 to 6,000 BC. Yeah,
BC,
in
right?
that region, yeah.
And then before that, there's like no history of civilization. That's something that always struck me. And I know that that's a period where we were coming out of the Ice Age. So there's theories that say that there, like Atlantis, for example, Plato wrote that, there was this city of Atlantis, that there was a huge flood, and that flood basically wiped out and inundated at what is considered Atlantis. A lot of people say that that's fake, it's a myth or just a story. But the dates that he gave lined up with more or less the time that the Ice Age happened. So that's something that always interested me. And then in my thesis, I would always think like, this is crazy, right? But what if maybe before the Ice Age happened, like there was a bunch of civilizations existing, right? And somehow they developed technology that was able to get them off this planet. Now, this is not something I came up with. This is things that I would read online, and I'm sure you've heard this stuff before.
Yeah.
I feel like that's also a possibility. Not necessarily aliens. Like I do believe in aliens and stuff. But I also like to think the possibility that maybe once humans got off this planet already and landed on other planets.
It's certainly a nice thought. I would only object because technologically speaking, I don't think we're actually capable of that ever.
Ever, because of the whole light speed issue.
Because of the light speed issue, which is a humongous issue. It's something that we are not close to figuring out. You talk about traversing millions of light years and doing it in a time span where the entire generation of people on that ship won't starve to death. And you talk about wormhole theory and think, well, we can open up wormholes and teleport through the galaxy. The thing is, we can't, because the minute something goes through a wormhole, it collapses. So that would be the concern with that theory of, did we ever leave Earth? As far as Atlantis, I mean, there's a lot of historians that believe that it was a Minoan city that actually was destroyed by a volcano. Not Santorini. Though I think it might have been based in the Santorini volcano basin. But essentially, they were about the right time period and about the right technology. And the volcano could have wiped them out, leaving the city basically under the ocean.
Is that something you believe?
I read a book about it a long time ago, and the gentleman presented like a pretty good argument. But honestly, I don't have a belief in it necessarily because I haven't really looked into it enough. It seems like a probability that a city got blown out of the ocean by a volcano. That's super probable.
Yeah, it's probable. I guess the issue people have is because they said Atlantis was like this high technological place, and people always they're like, there's no way. There's no way that could happen.
I think people they forget to define like what is it that we define as high technology. The Greeks and the Minoans and the Romans had running water and air conditioning,
right?
And we lost that. And I don't mean traditional air conditioning like what we use now. But they developed these systems of caverns through the mountains that would carry fresh air from the other side of the mountain through the mountain through these rock or stone tunnels and into people's homes, providing them with a fresh breeze from the other side of the island. And this is something that the Minoans did, 4,000 or whatever years ago when they were here, and we lost that. We lost a lot of the technology that we had during the Roman era, during in the Middle Ages, and it took us a couple hundred years to recover that.
So, some of it. Because, there was a whole burning of the library in Alexandria. God knows what we lost there.
We lost a bunch. There was a lot of backups in India, but still, we lost a humongous wealth of human information, of achievements, of history. A lot of history was missing.
But there was backups in India, but not of everything, obviously, right?
No. A couple things that were translated. That's the problem.
That's insane, man. Every time I think about that, I'm like, God knows what we lost. The whole thing about the pyramids that nobody really knows how they were built. All this type of stuff, Machu Picchu in Peru, Stonehenge, like all these things that exist out there, and we have no idea how they came to be.
Well, I guess that's kind of cool, huh? Like analyzing the inexplicable and explaining it.
Yeah.
And, that's probably one of the fun things for historians to do. We can break our asses over and our minds over how they built the pyramids. And, you'll hear people say crazy shit like, well, there weren't enough people to move the blocks or... there obviously were, because they got moved.
Right.
So the issue now is like from a construction standpoint, like how did they do that?
How did they do it exactly?
And that's the cool thing about history, which I loved when I was studying it. But history kind of lost its charm with me after school. And obviously the career outlook was so terrible. I don't know anybody that.
What do you mean? Like people were telling you that you weren't going to be able to find a job or something like that?
People didn't tell me. I looked.
You looked.
Find...
You couldn't find anything?
Yeah, I didn't listen to people. I said, well, fuck it. I'll try to figure it out. And I ended up teaching English and reading at a technical college. And it was finding history or work in history is the following. You have to accept that you're probably never going to make a lot of money. Mm-hmm. And I don't mean you're not going to make a lot of money as in, $50,000-$60,000. I mean, you're probably going to be eating Spam and driving a 10-year-old Corolla for most of your life. It's the truth. So I thought, I love history. But when I went to school, you go into school and you're kind of a little naive. Mm-hmm. You have these grandiose ideas, these ideologies, and you're like, well, I'm going to study what I love. And maybe you abandon some of that practicality. And by the end of it, you do love it. But you realize that, or at least what I came to realize, was what your hobby, or the things that are your hobbies, don't necessarily have to be your line of work. So now I read all kinds of history books on my free time.
That's your hobby now, right?
And it's my hobby. But I don't teach history. I don't want to teach history. I don't want to keep studying history. It is just my hobby.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I never thought there was anything wrong with that. People all the time, they study something and then they decide to keep that for themselves. They don't want to work in it professionally. Yeah. And that's super cool. There's nothing wrong with that.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, people go crazy thinking that, what they're going to do, they have to love. And that's not necessarily true. But we're taught, like, I think our generation is very, like, we're told, do what you love, because if you don't love it, your life is fucking pointless. Right? Mm-hmm. It's what we're told. Yeah. And if your life isn't the way everybody else's seems to be on the internet, then it's fucking pointless. And that's not necessarily true.
Not at all.
Because I'll tell you something. I know a lot of people that have gotten to their dream jobs and they want to fucking kill themselves.
It's true. Because the thing is that once you start doing something so often, even if you love it, you get sick and tired of it.
Exactly. The trick is finding beauty in what you do.
And finding balance too.
And finding
beauty and balance. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I would love to race cars. If you told me any dream job for me, I would say, I'd race for the Porsche team or something like that. I love driving fast, and I love cars, and I love playing car racing video games. I think that would be the perfect job for me. But when you're racing an automobile, you're burning 800 calories per hour. I don't see myself doing that 8 hours a day for my entire life,
Yeah, it's almost better like to get some money, buy your own car, and maybe take it on the weekends to the track. And
exactly.
You don't have to be a race car driver to race cars. Right?
I feel like our whole society puts this emphasis on everything being a certain way, which is very ideal, but it's just that. It's not realistic. It's not concrete. And in our generation, we were the first ones to suffer that. And now the generation after us is really suffering from it even worse.
I think that has to do with social media, right?
Social media is... I wrote... It's funny. A little while ago, I wrote a post on Reddit. Somebody put for the creative writing prompts. What do you think of weaponized depression? The idea of weaponized depression.
What's weaponized depression?
My thought precisely. So I thought, weaponized depression, that's an interesting concept. And for some reason, the idea of social media came to mind. And I wrote a short story about how these social media tycoons use social media, and it's basically weaponized depression. Because what we see in social media, and there's so many books about it, I actually have a book in my bag about it, is that social media will only show us, or the idea of the internet is that it works by what's most popular.
Right.
And that doesn't necessarily mean the best.
Not at all.
It can mean the most popular best, the most popular worst. The worst cases of human existence, of the human experience, and then the best parts of the human experience. So that's all that we see. We see 5% of the best, 5% of the worst, and then the 90% in the middle, fuck it.
Doesn't exist.
It doesn't exist.
So people want to do one or the other. They want to be the best, and if they can't achieve the best, because the best
exactly,
it's really hard to achieve.
But the problem is that almost all of us exist in that 90%. So we look at social media, and you see these guys fucking ripped, they don't have a fucking job, maybe. Or they don't have time. But we don't see that. We only see that. So then the self-esteem is undermined of all these young guys. With girls. These girls. And the perfect sculpted asses. It looked like Jesus Christ came and did it himself. And then the girls suffer. They suffer because they go to the gym and my butt doesn't look like that. Why?
That's so true. And a point that you brought up is that those guys probably don't have a job. They just do that all day long. Same with the girls.
Maybe
probably,
not.
Yeah, maybe not. But maybe they've gotten to the level already where they're getting paid to do this, so they don't have to work. Exactly. They can just work out all day long. They can eat right. Maybe they have people that cook for them,
or maybe,
assistants.
And this is the big part, the whole point. Maybe they're just the 1% whose body can look like that. There's some people that work out for days on end that will not look the same as somebody else, that maybe their body will adapt to working out a little better. So here we are, a whole fucking bunch of people on social media. I don't use it. I used to. And I stopped because I realized I wasn't looking at the human experience. I was not looking at what it is to truly be human. Most of us wake up at 7 a.m. We make coffee on a little shitty $9 coffee maker from Walmart. We drink our shitty coffee on the way to work. We turn on fluorescent lights in an office, and there are 8 people or 9 people there that are the people we spend the most time with. And Instagram and Facebook, you don't see that. So now that is worthless. And it's not, because that is your life. And that's what you do, the 99% of the time. So instead of appreciating and loving the mundane and ordinary,
or seeking the beauty in it, like you said.
Or seeking the beauty in it and the enjoyment in it. What social media does is constantly taunt you and tell you, you can't, this isn't your life. This is a piece of shit, You have to be great. You have to be unique. You have to be the best. Well, let me tell you, that's not fucking possible for all of us to be the best. It's not possible.
Not only that, but being the best, that's subjective. You can be the best in your own way, and I can be the best in my own way, and they're different.
Of course.
And that's something that I learned, like, growing up. Like, I always strived to be one way growing up, and then when I got there, I realized that the way that I was before, I considered better than what I was at now, even though I achieved my goal. Right. Yeah. So then I stopped doing that. And I realized, this whole mirage of social media, or how you call it, weaponized,
weaponized depression.
Weaponized depression.
An idea of mine,
but it's funny. It almost like hits the nail right on the head.
You want to fucking turn a civilization upside down that's never had social media? Give it to them. You'll have an entire generation of depressed people. And I'm not the only one who said this. There are so many authors. There are so many books. But if you don't look for it, you won't find it. You won't find the material that shows you exactly what's going on.
So what's the solution then? Do we get rid of social media, or
there's no single solution. The most common defense for social media that I hear is, well, I use it to keep in contact with my family from far away and my friends. And you check their webpage or their front page, and there's a fucking brand new picture of their brand new, Scion FRS.
Okay, to be fair, some people do use it that way. So
some people do.
So it's true. Some people do use it as communication.
Don't.
No, they want to show
most people don't
off.
even use it at all to put things. Most people just watch, and that's the fucked up part.
Yeah, they're the creepsters. They're just like watching to see what you're doing.
It's not even about, even about being creepy.
What are you up to?
Yeah, they're like, oh yeah, damn.
Look at him. You got a new car.
Hot since high school. Fuck. I should have definitely
like
it's that they're watching and they're wishing, and that's the saddest fucking thing, is to watch and wish that your life
and not do anything about it. Or like, in a way, it almost like confuses what your goals are, because if ever since you were little you want to be something, let's say an astronaut, and then you follow astronauts on social media, and then you're like, I want to be like them, but in a way social media starts showing you other random stuff, and then you kind of start wanting to be like them, and then it's like a tug of war between you, and you don't end up doing anything. I feel like that's the reason why there's so many lazy people nowadays. And nowadays people are always like, I'm so lazy, I don't do much, I just go home. And I think it's the fact that, we have so much on our brains all the time of everything we want to do, we end up not doing anything.
That, and honestly, there's also a social component, like, of the way our whole generation is, which is that we're an extremely entitled generation. Mm-hmm. And that's not necessarily our fault, and that's not the millennials, us, and the next generation's fault per se.
Yeah.
But it is our fault if we don't realize that and fix it for our kids when we have them. And the reason I say that is because you have a whole generation of kids that Your parents told you were the smartest one in school. Your parents told you that you were the cutest, the prettiest. They told you were the best. And they're fucking lying to you. They are fucking lying to you. So your entire life, you were told you were the best. And then sometime when you were 8 or 9, you were introduced to the internet. That's what happened to us. And you were introduced to the idea of instant gratification. So now you have instant gratification and a false sense of superiority. That's a recipe for disaster. That's a recipe for an entire generation of people that are not willing to work 8 hours in an office so they can get the job they want. I want $60,000 right out of college because I fucking deserve it, because everybody told me that after 4 years of college, I wasn't going to be poor.
That is so true. Yeah, that's just how our generation functions. Like they don't want to, I don't know if it's that they don't want to put in the work, but they feel like you said they're entitled. They deserve more.
They see the best and the worst only. So they see the best only. And they think, oh, fuck, this guy went to New York with his bachelor's degree. He's making 150 grand a year. What the fuck? I'm not making 150 grand a year. Instead of thinking, it doesn't matter. Your life is, you shouldn't be comparing it to other people.
Yeah.
So we have a whole generation of people comparing themselves to each other, measuring dick lengths. It's the truth. And then on top of that, we're so insecure as a generation. And the generation coming up next is going to be even worse.
It's going to be even worse.
Because they don't even socialize with each other.
It's funny. I see kids nowadays, and I feel like an old guy every time I say this, but I feel like kids nowadays, like when I was a kid, I didn't have, we didn't have internet. We didn't have Xbox Live. We didn't have anything. All we could do is hang out with our friends every once in a while.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
But like kids nowadays, they're attached to their headsets. They're playing Fortnite, right? And then they're not even speaking to each other. They're not speaking anything like we are right now, for example. They're not talking about this or that. They're just saying, oh, you got to get this gun. Oh, you got to get this. Oh, watch out. Yeah. And then when they hang out in class, it's like they have nothing to talk about. Because they don't know how to talk. They don't do anything.
They don't do anything, and they don't talk to each other. I teach high schoolers sometimes. When my boss wants to punish me, he'll give me, tell me to sub a high school class or whatever. And I've noticed something watching them. I've seen them at lunch eating, 6 of them on a table, and they're all on their phones, and they might even be sending shit to each other without even talking to each other.
Yeah, just a foot away.
And that's our fault. Our generation's fault. Because we were loving this technology so much that we gave a 3-year-old a tablet, and we took away their ability to experiment with tactile. Talk to an occupational therapist. Talk to a psychologist. And ask them what the damage is of a kid that doesn't learn how to fucking play with shit.
Yeah, it definitely is our fault, because I've seen parents, when their kids are talking to them, they're just doing what a kid does. Talks, they're like, here, take my phone. Leave me alone.
Exactly.
That kid doesn't understand.
The kid is not forced to think about how to entertain himself. He's not forced to look around and find something to do. He's given it from 3 fucking years old. And then we wonder why they're 18 and 19 and they're waiting for us to fucking give it to them. We gave it to them their whole lives. And now we're mad that they're expecting more. You basically train them yourself.
Dude, man, you bring up some crazy points. Unfortunately, though, like we're here, minute 35. It went by pretty quick, right?
Yeah, actually.
And I was doing an hour before, but it was just turning like crazy.
Yeah, a little long. I didn't finish the last one that you watched.
It's too much, and I decided, I had a friend, Marlon, so shout out to Marlon. He told me that I should keep it 30 minutes. Not Marlon from high school.
Okay.
Maybe you met him, though. He's my friend from banking, from when I used to work at the bank.
Maybe. I'll give him a shout out anyways.
Yeah, we'll give him a shout out. He told me, he's been giving me advice, so he's like, one of them was like, dude, cut it out, bro. Do 30 minutes.
If it's too long, you'll lose it.
Do 30 minutes. And you know what?
Attention span.
Not only that, but it's like it becomes a pain to edit all this stuff. So
I bet
I'm gonna go ahead and cut this short. But I have a couple things I want to try out with you. That's okay. Now the first one, it's called the random question of the day.
All right.
And every day I think of something random, and I'm like, some are silly, some are stupid, and I want to go ahead and ask you my random question of the day.
Let's do it.
So my random question of the day is, if you're in a urinal one day, you're taking a leak,
yeah,
and you look down and you see a diamond, right?
Yeah.
Would you pick it up?
Is it a real diamond? I don't know, right?
You don't know.
Something diamond.
You just see it. You look at it. It's a nicely cut, princess cut diamond. I don't know what that is, but I hear girls saying that all the time.
Yeah.
But so we'll go with that. It's a princess cut diamond.
right.
It's glimmering there under your urine.
I'm gonna tell you something.
Yeah.
I would actually never find a diamond in a urinal because I'm super pee shy, so I don't use urinals.
Oh, okay. You got that shy bladder. Okay.
Yeah. I
so
can't
let's say
fucking pee with somebody.
okay,
next
that's
to me.
even better. Let's say
So
you're in the toilet.
In a fucking
in a
toilet.
stall.
I see a diamond. I probably would not pick it up.
You would not pick it up.
No.
You wouldn't. Would you?
It would
think,
cross
though?
my mind. I'd think like, is that a real diamond? But then my like rational part would be like, even if it is, what are you gonna do? You're gonna go to a pawn shop. They're gonna make you fill out a bunch of paperwork, and they're gonna give you $150 after. I'll leave the fucking.
And
thing.
I don't want $150 because I'm entitled. I need 300.
It's not that. I think honestly, just me being like the way I know myself to be, I'd probably look at it and think it wasn't a real diamond and flush the fucker.
Yeah. All right. Good answer. Good answer.
Yeah.
And then the second thing that I want to try out here with you. This is I hate this. I thought about it the other day and I was
we're
like,
gonna do it anyways.
yeah, we're gonna do it. I
Okay,
think it's
fuck
such a stupid thing
All right.
that I want to do, but I like doing stupid things sometimes. So
All right,
let's
do
go
it.
ahead and try
I do
this.
all kinds of stupid shit.
So I don't have a name for this segment. Maybe we'll call it 5-minute news.
5-minute
And
news.
for the
All right.
next 5 minutes, I'm gonna go ahead and go into my news feed. I'm gonna say headlines. You can choose to comment or not comment. We can open up the link because they're just headlines.
All right.
So I'll say the headline. You can say whatever you want based on it. You can stay quiet, or you can decide if we want to open it and read more about it.
All right, this is gonna be interesting. Actually.
All right. It may not be. I hate the news. That's why I hate the idea. I thought about.
I don't.
This the
Yeah,
other day.
I try to stay away from the news as much as possible. But,
Yeah.
but this will be
Fake
interesting.
news. All right. So let's start. So I'll just go ahead and read them. All right.
Let's do it.
So the first one is Samsung accidentally confirms massive Galaxy Note 9.
Massive. Are they gonna make them tablet sized?
Well, it's the Note. The Note 9 is like
That's the one that comes with a pencil.
yeah. This is the Galaxy 9 Plus. This is the regular one, but the Note
Plus.
is like a brick. It's like a brick with a pen in it, and then
Yeah.
they accidentally confirmed. It's stupid. The next one is fat loss coach says do these 6 things for 2 weeks to start losing weight.
Oh God,
Push-ups. Don't eat junk food.
It's so fucking simple. That's the thing. When I see, we'll go off on a tangent here. I was fucking fat. I weighed 185 pounds and I am 5'6". Maybe I tell people I'm 5'7", but I'm not. So and you know how I got there? The only way that you get fat from fucking eating.
Make it 6 steps though, so we can match this article.
You want 6 steps to
6
get
steps.
skinnier? Stop eating out junk food. Ever. That's not an option. Taco Bell, McDonald's, that's not things you should ever in your life put in your body.
But Alex, I don't have time to cook. I'm always so hungry and
Then
I'm
don't
working.
fucking eat. Because it is literally healthier to not fucking eat than to put that shit in your body. Number 1.
Yes.
Number 2, quit sodas.
Yeah.
Sodas have no fucking nutritional value.
But I drink diet soda. It has 0 calories.
That's even worse for you. If you can't pronounce the ingredients on an ingredients list, they're obviously not going to be good for you.
Don't drink it.
Don't
Stays in
fucking
your
drink
body
it.
forever.
Look, the carbonation's terrible for your stomach and your intestines. The sugar is fucking terrible for you.
Gives
And
you cavities.
The food coloring is pointless. Literally pointless except to make it look appealing.
You got 4 more to go. Let's do this.
4 more. Okay, so quit the sugary drinks. No junk food. Make your own meals at home.
Amen to that.
I think, and this is how I've managed to stay slim 10 years after high school. I weigh basically almost the same. I weigh about 15 pounds more, which is my doctor says is a normal, gain that you
you look
make
good
in that time. I look okay. I'm not, ripped or anything, but I don't like eating out that much. I try to cook at home and I'm fucking terrible at it. But when you cook at home, you know what you're putting in your food. A lot of restaurants put a lot of salt, put a lot of sugar, and you don't need that shit in your food. And all those calories add up. Watch what you're fucking eating. Count
Portion
your
control.
calories. Portion control.
Yeah.
A friend of mine told me the other day, he's like, David, I hope you have him on the show, actually.
I do want him, dude.
Awesome.
The culinary expert.
He is, if you want to talk about food, you want a good fucking food episode, have him on your show. He told me, he's like, a portion of cereal is half a cup. If people talk about pouring more cereal until they run out of milk and then pouring more milk until they run out of cereal, and you've had 600 calories of Frosted Flakes.
Yeah, that's so true. People don't know portions. Like 4 ounces of chicken. That's what you're supposed to have in a meal.
Oh yeah, that's this.
This right here.
That's a little thing of chicken like this. So don't fucking overeat. You know, if you're going to a steakhouse, get the 6-ounce steak. I promise you that's fucking enough. You don't need a fucking 20-ounce porterhouse. You don't need that's terrible for you.
Yeah, man.
I don't even know what number we're on. That was number 4, right?
It's cool, dude. Let's skip it. We got actually, since it's 5-minute news, we're about to go over here, but we got one more.
All right.
So I'll read a couple more and that's it.
Let's do it.
The next one is Player Unknown's Battlegrounds keeps fixes rolling.
I don't play any of those games right now. I'm like a little kid. I've gone backwards in life and now started playing Nintendo games because I have 1 hour a day to do it. So
yeah,
I'll play like the really simple shit. So I have no idea. I know all the kids are playing that online.
And then finally, how Shark Tank winner Love Pop founder prepared for his pitch.
Love Pop?
Love Pop. They were on Shark Tank. I don't know. It's the name of the company.
Oh, I've never heard of it.
But they prepared for their pitch in an interesting way. I'm not going to read the article, but how do you think he did that? How do you think he prepared for his pitch?
I don't know how I would prepare for a pitch if I had a new company. I'd probably wear something ridiculously loud.
That's exactly what he did.
A fucking red suit or something with a red tie. Or maybe like a Donald Trump costume. Just
something to stand out.
Yeah, yeah. Like something to really like, oh, you remember that fucking guy that came in here with a red suit? What the fuck was his company's name anyways? They're not going to care. They're just going to remember like this crazy guy came in here with a red suit. Dude. Maybe something like that.
Awesome, man. So that's the end of that stupid segment. It was actually kind of fun.
Actually, I think that's pretty funny. You should totally keep that.
Yeah, I might keep it.
Yeah, yeah.
What'd you think about the random question? Was that
random question is awesome.
You liked the random question?
Random question is awesome.
Yeah. All right, so I'll keep those. Well, it was awesome because you were the first person on this podcast to experience 2 new things, man.
Fuck yeah.
And I have an extra camera looking at me now, so hopefully I can keep that because it's always been on the guest and on like the
I love that angle. Like when you showed it to me, it's like this angle that's very flattering. It shows how fat I am. And like it
shows your big chest, man. Yeah, I noticed you had been working out.
My tits, and I have not been working out.
Dude, but thank you so much for coming in. Is there anything that you want to shout out? Any person, any plug at all? Say hi to someone.
If you don't have one of those wax burners in your house, you're missing out on a fantastic opportunity to make your home smell like just like pumpkin spice. Or, I recently got one of those and I'm obsessed with it. So if you don't have like a wax burner, one of those little Walmart ones, you really should get one.
And you can get it at Walmart?
Yeah, for $9.99 or something like that.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Thank you so much, Alex.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man.